Welcome to the Child Care Director's Chair, the podcast for bold educators who are ready to lead, grow, and shake things up in early childhood education. Whether you're a teacher eyeing that lead role, a lead stepping into leadership, or a center owner dreaming big, this is your space to grow with purpose and leave your mark. Hosted by heart-centered leadership coach Erica Sacoccio, each episode brings you real talk, actionable tools, and a contagious laugh or two, all designed to help you step into your next level with confidence. So pour your coffee, pop in those earbuds, and take your seat, because your leadership journey starts right now in the Child Care Director's Chair.
Hey guys, it's Erica with the Child Care Director's Chair podcast, and I have a question for you. What if we stopped seeing play as something extra and started recognizing it as the foundation of learning? In early childhood education, play isn't a break from learning, it is the learning. And when parents and educators understand that, everything changes. Today's episode is a powerful preview of what's coming at the Early Childhood Empowerment Conference with our friend Susie, sharing her wisdom on the importance of play, not just in classrooms, but at home too. So welcome to the show, Susie.
Hi, glad to be here.
So tell folks a little bit about yourself.
Sure, I'm a daycare owner. I have 3 centers and roughly about, 60 to 100 children per center. And I'm also an author. So I wrote a book called Learn to Play, and then I wrote a second book for parents called Parents Learn to Play Too. So I'm highly, highly passionate about teaching the value of play and the power of play.
Do you know, Susie, we've talked so many times. I didn't realize you had 3 centers.
Yes.
I didn't. I knew you had a center. I didn't realize you had a chain of centers. So that is cool. I learn something every time. Every time. So tell me, Susie, what first drew you to focus on play as a foundation of learning for early childhood education?
Well, I think I first discovered it with my own child when I was at home with my own child, and I realized that all those other methods of teaching didn't work. Worksheets and whatever else I tried didn't work. And when I actually went back to school and figured out how do children learn? And it's through engagement, right? It's through hands-on engagement with materials, which is just another way to say play, right? And that's really the basis of learning for kids. And that's how I figured it out, like more than 20 years ago. And I've been so passionate about it ever since.
Yeah. Why is play especially critical in early years and when children experience that fastest brain development?
Yeah. So, the first 8 years of a person's life is the most critical because their brain is growing at the fastest rate that it ever will. It will never be repeated again. And because those neurons are making connections in such a fast way in those early years, the question is, how are we making those connections, right? What happens in the brain? Lots of people have done research on this, and, a lot of organizations have confirmed that the way those connections get made is just through regular play, like children interacting with their environment, interacting with materials, interacting with people, and all of those things together strengthen those brain connections. And that's really how learning happens.
Yeah. Your book, Parents Learn to Play Too, emphasizes that parents play a critical role in learning. How can educators help families see that play is meaningful, not just fun?
Yeah. I think we have to tie play into learning objectives, right? So play isn't just, play can be unstructured, of course. Children just, interact with with the materials, with their environment on a daily basis. So they're playing, probably every waking moment. But, in an education atmosphere, like at a childcare center, we make it purposeful. So the play has intention. And when we can communicate that to parents and say, this isn't just, them running around, the same way they would at home. This is intentional. We are creating intentional play, hands-on learning experiences with specific objectives in mind. We're either trying to teach a certain skill or expand on, a certain learning of a certain topic. And we do all of that through play, and it's very intentional. So if we can explain to parents the intention behind play, that's how we can get them on board to really understand the power that it does have.
Can you explain a little bit about the 4 pillars of learning that you outline? I know it's like language, literacy, STEAM, and physical activity.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Well, talk to
You
us a little
got it
bit.
right.
Sometimes
So,
we
yeah,
need to.
there's four pillars that I developed, and this developed over time. As I started my first daycare, I developed this curriculum, and then it just, got solidified in my book where I actually wrote down what we were doing in real life. And so we've centered it around four pillars. The first pillar is, I think, the foundation, which is language and literacy. You can't do anything, you can't do any other subject until you can learn the basics, right, of communication, verbal, written communication, reading, writing, speaking. So that is the first pillar. The second pillar works on digital skills, the new age skills, right? So the things that our children are going to need for their own future careers, especially with AI evolving the way it is, science, technology, engineering, art, and math, those are going to become important skills for children to have. Not to mention that STEAM does build all higher level thinking skills, right? It builds not just, an understanding of science or math, but it develops that critical thinking and that problem solving ability and the
Mhm.
creativity that you need, right? So that's STEAM, that second pillar. And then our third pillar works on the body, right? So physical activity and nutrition. We know that children can't learn unless they're physically active. We know that movement stimulates the brain. And we know that nutrition is important because a hungry child definitely can't learn. So nutrition and physical activity is the third pillar. And then the fourth one is really all about awareness of the mind, right? So self-regulation, emotional skill building, emotional intelligence. That's the fourth piece. So all of that comes together to kind of support a holistic approach to learning that involves every aspect of their lives.
Awesome. So, what are some simple, everyday ways that parents can support learning through play at home, even when life is busy? Because we all know parents are always on the go nowadays. So, what are some easy ways that they can implement it?
I think, parents need to get intentional about their play. And I think it can be as simple as, understanding the basics around those four pillars, right? So if you think about, how can a parent do science at home? Well, that's as simple as just going out for a walk into nature, right? Going for a walk into the local park or, neighborhood forest or something like that and exploring, right? Let the children dig in the dirt. Let them pick up sticks and examine leaves and look at the bugs. That's science right there. It's so simple and doesn't take a lot of effort. It's just, going for a walk in nature. Even in your own backyard, if you can't go far, right? In your own backyard, you'll discover lots of science right there. Literacy, obviously reading with children, right? Reading books is one of the most important things you can do with your child. So you can really develop that lifelong love of books and reading just by, on a daily basis, reading a book or two with your child right before bed. And it's a nice wind down routine to get them ready for sleep, right? So there's lots of little simple ways that parents can incorporate it into their days, even things like when they're driving. Point out the signs, right? Point out the letters on the signs you see or the numbers, right? If you see, a speed limit sign, you see numbers on it, point it out, right? You see a stop sign, point that out. Children can quickly, learn things because it's relevant, right? When it becomes relevant to what they're actually doing, it's a lot easier to learn letters and numbers rather than sitting down with, let's do math right now, let's do language right now, right? Incorporate it into your daily routine and it becomes fun, playful, and the learning improves.
All right, so let's talk to our educators that are listening. How can
Yes.
the educators strengthen that home to school connection by partnering with parents around play based learning?
Yeah. And I think comes down to education, right? We as educators need to also educate parents, not just children. We need to educate parents on what children are doing on a daily basis and how, again, like I said, how it relates to the learning objectives. So if you have a specific objective that you want your child to learn, when you're doing that particular activity that's going to support that objective, then you might perhaps share that with the parents and say, the children learned about this today and by doing this activity, they were building this skill and we saw this develop, and we saw them learn this particular thing. And all that can be documented in, kind of what we call pedagogical documentation, right? So educators can document that stuff and share that documentation with parents, whether it's, you guys do scrapbooks like paper-based, or if you have digital apps where you can upload and really explain what's happening. It's not just, a child in a sensory bin, moving things around. They're learning spatial awareness, right? Like use the big words, use the words that really describe what's going on in that learning experience. And that's how educators can educate parents along the way every day. Every day we can do this.
Yeah. So you encourage parents to reconnect with their own playful side. Why is shared play so powerful for both the children and the adults?
I really believe that learning happens when adults are responsive, right? So, yes, certainly children can learn without adults. That's absolutely true, but when adults get involved and they're responsive to whether it's parents or educators, when they're responsive to children, then that ups the level of learning, right? Children can learn a lot more when the adult is involved in that. And that means that we as adults have to get playful, right? So if children learn through play, then we also have to get involved in that play. We need to be playful ourselves. We need to tap into that silly side, that playful side that really meets them where they are, right? So we want to be able to get into their world. And so we have to get into their world. We have to play and we have to
Yeah.
learn because
Yeah.
it doesn't come easy as adults, right? Like we get serious when we get older, but we have to,
Not
look up.
early childhood educators. We don't. I'm smiling because, my daughter's 27 and certainly, play is just great for, of course, learning, but also relationships. So yesterday, again, just going back to being silly, we played Trouble. I haven't played Trouble in I don't even know, probably 20 years. We played Trouble, we played Uno, we played Connect Four. It was, the 1st of January. So we didn't have work and we listened to some really great music and we had a great time. And, I was just thinking, wow, like, how great is this? And, and she's 27. So don't stop playing with your kids, no matter what age they are. It really does, bring back good memories for you, for them, and relationships. We know at the end of the day, um, you can just build so much off of positive relationships.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
That's amazing that you did that. That's awesome.
yeah. So for educators who work with families who feel pressure to do more academics, what's one message that you want them to confidently share with those parents? Because we know the pressures, or what do they do today? Where's the project? Where's the this? Where's the that, right? We know, right, that that is a true thing. So, what would you say to educators who work with those families who are like, you're not teaching them anything. All they're doing is playing. I need them ready for kindergarten.
Yeah. And I think it's reframing that, right? It's reframing and putting that question back to them to be like, this is academics, right? Like this, I'll show you how this is academics. Show them, right? Show them that this is math, that, sorting these items into multiple containers. Sure, it looks like play, but it's actually math that's happening. Tracing, something in the sand with a stick. I'm doing pre-literacy work, right? This is going to help me to be able to learn to read and write eventually, right? So it's just around framing, right? Framing how the play, like I said, connects with the objective of learning, and that all learning can happen in every subject area through play. And so
Yeah.
when somebody comes to me and says, "Why aren't you doing academics?" I'll be like, "Where have you been all this time? We've been showing you that this is academics. Like we're doing science experiments, even though it looks like play. We're doing, math, even though it looks like play. And we're doing physical activity. All of it is important in teaching the child social skills, everything, right? All of it
Yeah.
connects to what they need to get to that next level, which whether it's kindergarten or grade school, whatever it is.
Yeah. So Susie, are you bringing, and I didn't ask you this, I probably should have asked you before, but are you bringing any of your books to sell at the conference?
Yes,
Will
I
you have
am. I
books there?
will.
You
Yes,
will. Okay,
absolutely.
perfect. Perfect. I probably should have asked you ahead of time. But so I wanted to spotlight really quick. So those of you who are attending the conference, I'd like to just spotlight a little bit. Parents Learn to Play Too is more than a parenting book. It's a practical handbook for families that they can use through their child's early years. And it offers simple activities for infants through preschoolers, supports strong parent child relationships, and reminds adults that play builds connection, confidence, and joy. So the book isn't just about helping children grow, it's about helping families grow together. So I just wanted to give a little plug because I think it's always great to go to conferences, but I also think it's really important to have resources that you can use beyond the one workshop. So what can people expect to leave from your talk at the conference?
I'm hoping to inspire. I'm hoping to inspire educators to change their practice or add something new to their practice or go deeper into their practice.
Yeah, be really
That's really
intentional.
what I'd like them to leave with.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So that would probably be why I brought you to the conference because you are amazing. So at the Early Childhood Empowerment Conference, Susie will be on the main stage, like I had said, expanding on these ideas, giving educators tools that they can use immediately in their classrooms and share with their families. Her session will inspire educators to protect play, advocate for it, and build stronger partnerships with your family. So if today's conversation speaks to you, please, we invite you to join us at the Early Childhood Empowerment Conference happening May 7th, 8th, and 9th at the Crowd Plaza in Warwick, Rhode Island. This conference is designed for early childhood educators, leaders, and advocates who deeply believe in appropriate practice, strong relationships, and the power of play. So come on, see Susie, come on, see me, and the rest of the gang over at the conference. The link is below. And if you want to learn more about Susie, Susie also has her own podcast. Tell them the name of it.
It's called the ECE Classroom.
The Classroom. So check it out. To all my podcast lovers out there. And as always, have a great day. Thank you for tuning in to the Child Care Director's Chair podcast.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Child Care Director's Chair, where we believe leaders aren't born, they're grown. If something sparked for you today, share it, shout it out, or pass it along to the next bold changemaker in childcare. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and stay connected with Erica Sacoccio for more real talk leadership tools and a whole lot of inspiration. Until next time, lead with heart, grow with fire, and always remember, the chair is yours. Now own it.